The sound of breaking glass echoed through the house as Mark's trembling hands lost their grip on the photo frame. Their smiling faces, his, Emily's, and 5-year-old Lily's, now lay shattered on the hardwood floor, a perfect metaphor for the life he was desperately trying to piece back together. 2 years after losing his wife to cancer, he was finally considering dating again. But how could he possibly explain to his daughter that he was ready to let someone new into their lives? If you've ever faced heartbreak, loss, or the terrifying prospect of starting over, stay with me until the end. This story might just change your perspective on love and second chances. If this resonates with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more stories that touch the heart. Mark Wilson stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the man looking back at him. At 36, the lines around his eyes had deepened, and flecks of gray had begun to appear in his dark brown hair. He ran his fingers through it, attempting to tame the unruly strands before giving up with a sigh. What was the point? It wasn't like he remembered how to impress anyone anymore. "Daddy?" Lily's small voice called from the hallway. "Are you going somewhere?" Mark opened the door to find his daughter clutching her favorite stuffed elephant, her wide blue eyes, so much like her mother's, looking up at him questioningly. "Just to Mrs. Rivera's for a little while, sweetheart. Remember? Mrs. Chen is coming over to stay with you." Lily's face fell slightly. "But it's movie night." The guilt hit him like a physical blow. Friday nights had always been their special time together, pizza, popcorn, and animated films that Mark had seen so many times he could recite the dialogue from memory. "I know, Lily Pad. I'm sorry. We'll do movie night tomorrow instead, okay? Double feature. Your choice." She nodded reluctantly, and Mark felt the familiar weight of parental inadequacy settle on his shoulders. Was he being selfish? Emily had been gone for 2 years, but sometimes it felt like yesterday. Other times, it felt like a lifetime ago. Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor from across the street, arrived promptly at 7. She had been a godsend since Emily's passing, stepping in whenever Mark needed help with Lily. "You look handsome," she said with a knowing smile as she hung up her coat. "Hot date?" Mark felt his face flush. "No, nothing like that. Just getting some advice." "Ah," Mrs. Chen nodded sagely. "From Sofia Rivera? Good choice. That woman has wisdom beyond her years." As Mark walked the short distance to his neighbor's house, his mind raced with doubts. Sofia Rivera had moved in next door about a year ago. She was around his age, maybe a few years older, with an easy laugh and a way of making everyone feel comfortable. They developed a casual friendship over shared property lines and occasional neighborhood gatherings, but this was the first time he'd sought her out for something so personal. Sofia's house was a stark contrast to his own. While his remained frozen in time, Emily's touches still evident in every corner, Sofia's home was vibrant and ever-changing. She was constantly repainting rooms, rearranging furniture, or adding new plants to her already impressive collection. She answered the door in jeans and an oversized sweater, her dark curly hair piled on top of her head in a messy bun. "Mark. Right on time. Come in." Her living room was warm and inviting, with books stacked on nearly every surface and the faint scent of cinnamon in the air. "Wine?" she offered, already pouring 2 glasses without waiting for his response. "Thanks," he said, accepting the glass and taking a larger sip than he'd intended. "I appreciate you agreeing to this. I know it's weird." Sofia settled into an armchair across from him, tucking her feet underneath her. "Asking your neighbor for dating advice? I've heard weirder requests, believe me." Mark stared into his wine glass, suddenly unsure where to begin. "I haven't been on a date in almost 12 years, he finally admitted. "Emily and I met in college. We were together ever since." Sofia's expression softened. "That's beautiful, Mark. Truly." "It was," he agreed, his voice catching slightly. But now, I don't even know how to start. Dating apps? Speed dating? And then there's Lily to consider. How do I explain to my 7-year-old that daddy wants to start seeing someone who isn't her mother? Sofia took a thoughtful sip of her wine. Can I ask you something first? Why now? What's changed? The question caught him off guard. He'd expected practical advice, what to wear, what to say, how to navigate the modern dating scene. Not this probing into his motivations. I'm lonely, he said simply, the words hanging in the air between them. And I think Emily would want me to be happy. To give Lily a complete family again. Sofia nodded slowly. Those are good reasons. But they're not enough. Mark felt a flicker of irritation. What do you mean? Dating because you're lonely or because you think it's what your late wife would want, those are external motivations. They might get you through a first date or even a second, but they won't sustain a relationship. She leaned forward, her dark eyes intent on his. The question you need to answer is, are you ready to love someone new? Not just to fill a void or check a box, but to truly open yourself up to another person? The question hit Mark like a punch to the gut. Was he ready? He'd thought so, but now he wasn't sure. I don't know, he admitted. Sofia's smile was gentle. That's the most honest answer you could give. And it's okay not to know. But before you dive into dating, I think you need to rediscover who Mark Wilson is now. Not just Emily's husband or Lily's dad, but you. And how exactly do I do that? Mark asked, unable to keep the skepticism from his voice. When was the last time you did something just for yourself? Something that brought you joy? Mark opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He couldn't remember. That's what I thought, Sofia said, not unkindly. My advice? Don't start dating yet. Start living first. As Mark walked home that night, Sofia's words echoed in his mind. Start living first. It seemed so simple, yet so impossible. How could he focus on himself when Lily needed him? When the mortgage needed paying and the lawn needed mowing and life kept demanding his attention? But over the next few weeks, he found himself thinking about Sofia's advice more and more. One Saturday morning, while Lily was at a friend's birthday party, he impulsively stopped by a music store. Before Emily's illness, he'd played guitar in a local band, nothing serious, just weekend gigs at bars and the occasional wedding. He hadn't touched an instrument since she got sick. The feel of the guitar in his hands again was like greeting an old friend. He bought it without overthinking, along with a new amp and some sheet music. That night, after Lily went to bed, he sat in the garage and played until his fingers ached. It wasn't great, years of neglect had taken their toll on his skills, but for the first time in a long time, he felt a spark of something that wasn't grief or obligation. It was joy. He mentioned it to Sofia the next time they ran into each other, as she was collecting her mail. That's exactly what I meant, she said, her face lighting up. What else did you love before? The question opened a floodgate. Before Emily's illness, before parenthood had consumed their lives, he'd loved hiking, photography, trying new restaurants, attending live music shows. Somewhere along the way, those parts of himself had gotten buried under the weight of responsibility and grief. Over the next few months, Mark began to reclaim pieces of his former self. He joined a weekend hiking group. He dusted off his old camera and started taking photos again, mostly of Lily at first, but eventually landscapes and street scenes too. He even started a small Instagram account to share his work. To his surprise, Lily thrived with these changes. She loved joining him on beginner-friendly hikes, proudly wearing the kid-sized backpack he'd bought her. She sat in the garage while he practiced guitar, occasionally singing along in her sweet, off-key voice. As Mark came back to life, their home did too. He finally painted over the faded wallpaper in the kitchen that Emily had always meant to replace. He and Lily planted a vegetable garden in the backyard. Through it all, Sofia remained a steady presence. She wasn't always directly involved, but she was there, offering encouragement, suggesting local events they might enjoy, sometimes joining them for weekend outings. Mark found himself looking forward to their conversations, valuing her perspective and her company. It was nearly 6 months after their initial conversation when Mark realized something had shifted. He was sitting on his back deck, watching Lily chase fireflies in the twilight. When it hit him, he was happy. Not the fleeting moments of joy he'd experienced since Emily's death, but a sustained contentment that felt both familiar and entirely new. The next day, he knocked on Sofia's door with a bouquet of wildflowers from his garden. "What's this for?" she asked, clearly surprised. "To say thank you," Mark said. "Your advice changed everything. I was so focused on finding someone to fill the empty space in my life that I couldn't see what was right in front of me." Sofia accepted the flowers with a smile. "And what was that?" "That I needed to become whole again first. That Lily and I were already a complete family, even if it didn't look like what I thought it should." Sofia's eyes softened. "I'm glad it helped. You seem different now, lighter somehow." "I feel different," Mark admitted. "And I've been thinking, maybe I am ready to date now." Something flickered across Sofia's face, disappointment. It was gone so quickly Mark thought he might have imagined it. "That's great," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Any prospects?" Mark took a deep breath. "Actually, I was wondering if you might want to have dinner with me sometime. Not as neighbors or friends, but as a date." Sofia's eyes widened. "Me? But I thought, all this time you've been talking about getting back out there, meeting new people." "I have been meeting new people," Mark said. "But none of them are you. None of them challenge me and support me the way you do. None of them make me laugh or think or feel the way you do." He paused, suddenly uncertain. "Unless I've completely misread things?" Sofia's laugh was soft and a little shaky. "You haven't misread anything. I just didn't think. I mean, I'm your neighbor. Your friend. I didn't want to complicate things." "Life is complicated," Mark said simply. "But some complications are worth it." Their first official date was nothing fancy, dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown. But as they talked and laughed over pasta and wine, Mark felt a sense of rightness that had been missing for so long. This wasn't about replacing Emily or filling a void. It was about embracing the person he had become and opening his heart to new possibilities. The real test came when they decided to tell Lily. Mark had been dreading this conversation, unsure how his daughter would react to the idea of him dating anyone, let alone someone she knew. To his surprise, Lily took the news in stride. "Like a girlfriend?" she asked, her head tilted curiously. "Yes," Mark said carefully. "Would that be okay with you?" Lily considered this for a moment. "Does this mean Sofia will come to movie nights?" Mark exchanged a glance with Sofia, who was trying not to smile. "Sometimes, if that's all right." "She can sit in the middle," Lily decided magnanimously. "But I get to pick the movie." It wasn't always that simple, of course. There were moments when Lily would grow quiet and withdrawn, times when she would ask pointed questions about her mother, making sure she wasn't being forgotten or replaced. Mark and Sofia navigated these waters carefully, always ensuring that Emily's memory remained honored and present in their lives. As their relationship deepened, Mark found himself facing unexpected emotions. Guilt would sometimes ambush him in quiet moments, guilt for being happy, for loving someone new, for moving forward when Emily couldn't. During one particularly difficult night, after finding an old anniversary card from Emily while cleaning out a drawer, he broke down in Sofia's arms. "I feel like I'm betraying her," he confessed, his voice raw. Sofia held him tightly. "Loving me doesn't diminish what you had with Emily. Love doesn't work that way, it's not a finite resource." Your heart just makes room. A year into their relationship, as they sat on Sofia's back porch watching Lily tend to the fairy garden they'd built together, Sofia turned to Mark with a serious expression. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice uncharacteristically nervous. That night you came to me for dating advice? I almost told you something completely different. Mark raised an eyebrow. Oh. I almost told you that you should wait at least another year before dating. That you weren't ready at all. She twisted her hands in her lap. Because the truth is, I was already falling for you, and I was scared of getting hurt if you started dating someone else before you were truly ready. Mark stared at her, processing this revelation. So your advice to start living first was still the right advice, Sofia insisted. But it was also selfish, in a way. I wanted you to heal, to find yourself again. And yes, I hoped that maybe once you did, you might see me differently. Mark reached for her hand. I've always seen you, Sofia. Even when I was too lost in grief to acknowledge it. You were this bright light next door, showing me that life could still be vibrant and full of possibility. 3 years to the day after Mark had knocked on Sofia's door seeking dating advice, he knocked again, this time with Lily by his side, both of them dressed in their finest clothes, holding a small velvet box between them. Sofia opened the door, confusion evident on her face. What's this? I thought we were just having a casual dinner. Mark and Lily exchanged conspiratorial smiles before Mark dropped to one knee. Sofia Rivera, he began, his voice steady despite the hammering of his heart. You taught me that before I could love someone else, I needed to rediscover who I was. What you didn't realize was that in helping me find myself, you also helped me find you. You've brought joy and laughter back into our lives when we needed it most. He opened the box to reveal a vintage emerald ring. Lily and I would be honored if you would officially become part of our family. Will you marry me? Sofia's hands flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. For a moment, she couldn't speak. Then she looked from Mark to Lily, who was practically vibrating with excitement. We practiced this like 100 times, Lily stage whispered. You're supposed to say yes now. Sofia laughed through her tears. Yes, she said, pulling both of them into a tight embrace. Yes to both of you. To all of it. Their wedding was small and perfect, held in Sofia's backyard, which had become a lush garden under her care. Lily served as both flower girl and best daughter, proudly walking down the aisle ahead of Sofia. During the ceremony, they included a moment of remembrance for Emily, lighting a candle in her honor. She brought us together in a way, Sofia had said while they were planning the wedding. Her love for you and Lily shaped who you became, and that's the man I fell in love with. As Mark stood under an arch of flowers, watching his soon-to-be wife walk toward him, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. This wasn't the life he had planned. It was messier, more complicated, marked by profound loss but also by unexpected joy. And he wouldn't change a moment of it. That night, as they danced under strings of twinkling lights, Sofia leaned close to whisper in his ear. Remember when you asked for dating advice? Mark smiled, pulling her closer. Best terrible first date I ever had. Terrible? Sofia pulled back in mock offense. You told me not to date anyone. Mark laughed. Most people don't start relationships by being told they're not ready for one. Sofia's expression grew serious. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I'd given you different advice that night? If I'd just told you where to take someone for dinner or what to wear? Mark considered this for a moment. I think I would have gone on some dates, probably made a mess of them, and eventually figured out what you told me right away, that I needed to heal first. But it would have taken longer, been more painful. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Your honesty that night is one of the reasons I fell in love with you. As they swayed to the music, Lily ran up to them, her flower crown slightly askew. Can I dance too? Without hesitation, Mark and Sofia opened their arms, creating space for her between.